Hey guys, welcome back to After Hours with me, Jimmy Thistle. Today we've got Abi King. Now, I was on Abi's podcast, the Sober Connection podcast, back in February, I think, maybe January, and we recorded this one over Riverside, over Zoom type thing. Abby's in New Zealand. We recorded it back in February, so apologies if there's talk of winter time and all that. I mean, I'm absolutely basking in the sunshine today, so absolutely loving that. But obviously, there's a little bit of chat about winter time, and Abby will be stuck right in winter now, being down in New Zealand. So apologies and commiserations to Abby. Abby did kind of, from the get go, she liked to get drunk. It slotted right in to the drinking culture at an early age, and it made her feel, like she belonged. That was it. She'd always felt a little bit kind of on the fringes, the sidelines, whatever. And once she started drinking, that was it. It was kind of, life and soul of the party. Felt like this was her calling. Start dabbling in other things, like hash, acid, led on to kind of ecstasy. And, at age 17, Abby and her then boyfriend saw an advert in the, local shop or newspaper or whatever. And it was like circus. So they kind of traveled around, I'd say the kind of northwest of England, like Skegness and places like that, doing this kind of circus work, not actually performing or anything like that, but helping flyering, advertising, setting, taking down the big top and all that. But unfortunately, during that time, that her boyfriend, started being abusive, and that really kind of started ramping her drinking up even more. So I'm not going to go into too much more about that. I'll let Abby tell you the story in there. But it's a really good episode, really powerful, really, I wouldn't say hard to listen to, but depends on your kind of makeup. I'm used to hearing people telling stories like what Abby had to go through. So it is a hard listen for most people. I'm not trying to say that I'm like, kind of made of stone, but you get kind of used to that kind of plight that people were in, and tragedy. So it is a hard listen. But as always, listen for the similarities, guys, and not the differences. See you at the end. Cheers, guys. Here's Abby. Hey, Abby, welcome to After Hours. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you, Jimmy. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. It's evening for you and it's morning for me. So tell the listeners where you're at.
So I'm in New Zealand. So last day of summer here in New Zealand. So it's getting a
Oh,
bit sad as the winter is coming. So last day of summer. It's currently 20 past 10 at night. So yeah, almost past my bedtime, especially these days on a Saturday night. So, but yeah,
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 nice to
absolutely. Well,
speak
I
to you.
mean, oh, absolutely. It's great to speak to you again, Abby, because like we've had a couple of dry days and it's been absolutely lovely. The sun's shining today because we've had a horrible winter. So I'm sad that you're coming out of summer, but we're just gearing up for spring and then
Yeah,
summer.
we've
So
actually had
yeah.
we've had a pretty wet summer. Actually, it's been quite miserable. So I don't know. Hopefully, maybe autumn will be better. I don't know. Who
Yeah,
knows?
yeah. Well, yeah. Hopefully, but it's one of those things. Well, Abby, tell us about your what was your childhood like, and we'll take it from there.
So I'm in New Zealand now, but I'm originally from the UK.
Hmm.
I was born in Stamford in Lincolnshire, and I am an only child. So I lived with my mum and dad. I moved to Germany when I was 8 years old and pretty much became a token German for 4 years. Went to a German school, spoke fluent German, did all those, kind of had the German hairstyle, the German fashion sense. And
Oh,
then when I was just before I turned 12, we moved back to the UK, and I grew up just south of Birmingham in a town called, a little village called Studley, in
okay.
Warwickshire. So yeah, spent my
Yeah.
misspent youth in there. And then, lots and lots of things happened, and I'm sure we'll talk about a few of them, but ended up in New Zealand.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah. And whereabouts? Because that's fascinating. So when were you, like, what years were you in Germany, and whereabouts in Germany?
I was in Germany when it was East and West, so I was in West
Yeah.
Germany. 1986 to 1990. So,
Yeah. So the
right
wall
when the
came
sort
down
of
in
wall came
1990,
down,
didn't
and
it? Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I've been to Germany a few times. I haven't, obviously, I've never been to Berlin, and that's somewhere that I've always wanted to go. But it's fascinating, that whole, because I knew people that grew up in, the east side of Berlin and things like that. And it's
yeah,
just fascinating. Anyway, we're
yeah.
not here to talk about, you know, the East and West communism debate. But so when did alcohol or substances first enter your life then? At what age?
So alcohol became, my mum and dad didn't really drink too much. They had some friends that they used to hang out with, and when they hung out with them, they got on the piss.
Yeah.
But it wasn't really in the house. My dad might have a couple of beers, but my mum wasn't much of a drinker.
Hmm.
I used to go to the local youth club when I was about 14, spiral
Yeah.
perm, short mini skirt, which I didn't wear on the way out, but then I sort of got changed and chucked my jeans in a bush kind of thing, picked them up later on in the evening sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Classic.
went down
Classic.
to the local youth club, met up with some friends, got people to go to the off license and buy Diamond White and Thunderbirds for us,
Hmm.
and away we went. So yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me, alcohol was always one of those things that from the get go, I did it to get drunk. Kind of got that confidence. I could
Hmm.
talk to boys. Just felt like I finally fit in. I think the more I think about it now, having been an only child, I've never really felt like I fit in anywhere.
Hmm.
But with alcohol, I fit in, and I became the life and soul of the party, and I was just everybody's best mate, and just loved it. So yeah, it
Yeah.
was pretty from the get go. It was yeah, it was messy. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's funny. My first drink, well, not my first drink, but my first drink out with my friends was Diamond White, and I think we got like a 4 pack each. And I don't remember having the fourth one. It was like,
yeah,
that kind of potent for us at that age. But pretty soon you do start to get a tolerance to it, and
mm.
you work your way up. So did that? What would you say your kind of habits were through your teen years? Was it like every weekend or?
Yeah. I was pretty much every weekend. There was a group of us that just used to. We had our fake ID. So probably
Hmm.
when I was about 15, 16. So it was youth clubs, sort of 14, 15, and then got in with a group of boys that went to a different school to us. They lived in the next town along, and
Hmm.
we had our fake IDs. I think I used a ski pass. I'd gone on a school trip to Austria. We
Yeah.
used our ski passes, and we used a little needle to take off so I was born in 78. So we got rid of the 8 and changed it to 5 or 4 or whatever we changed it to. And we used to go to clubs in Redditch, which was the next town along. And
Yeah.
I don't know what the security used to just give it a look and let us through the door, but it was very sketchy.
It's funny. Do you know what? You've just unlocked a memory, because my brother had, I don't know, it was like he was into, like, I don't know, guns and ammo and stuff like that. And in the back of one of his magazines was like this, you could send off for a fake ID, and it would come
Yeah,
and it wouldn't be sealed, and you just put in your photo and all that. And I started up like, I wouldn't say like a little business, but I was getting them for friends and things like that. So we all had these, and it didn't even, like, it wasn't official in any way, shape, or form. But because it had a photo and it had like a sealed kind of laminate front, and like I think so I would have been 14, so I'd have just changed it to what, 76 on my birthday.
yeah,
But I remember, like, I kept my actual birthday the same, like
yeah.
the 7th of February, and then the year was different. But my friends, and I was like, what have you got there? And they were like, oh, I was like, why have you chosen that random date? Like, if they ask you when they're looking at it, what's your birthday? You've now got another birthday to remember. They were like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, yeah. I was like, you absolutely. So they've got to remember a whole different birthday, whereas I was just remembering like the month and date and then a different year. So yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think they might have had those adverts in the back of. Do you remember Viz, the comic Viz?
Yeah. Oh no, do you know what? It could have been that as well. Yeah, it might have been that one, because my
Because that
brother
was like
was
a
getting
really
Viz.
naughty comic book that you were,
Yeah, yeah,
like if
yeah,
you
yeah.
put your hands on a Viz, it was like when you were a teenager. There was some really terrible stuff in there. It was hilarious. But there was I'm pretty sure there was like a fake ID advert in there, so maybe it was that.
It was probably that. Do you know what? Again, another memory unlocked. And my mum listens to this; she'll love this because my brother was a bit poorly one time, and she said to him like, "What do you?" I think he was like, he must have been like 15, 16. But she was like, "Do you want any magazines or comics from the shop? I'm going to go down. I'll get you some grapes and Lucasade in a magazine." So he was just like, my mum's not going to know what Viz is. So she was like, because I think you had to be 18 to buy it.
I
And,
think you
because
did,
there was
yeah.
some pretty, nasty stuff in there, as you say. But she went down to this shop and she's buying all this grapes and Lucasade for a boy. And she was like, "Now, do you have Viz?" to these people in our local newsagent. And they went to like top shelf and got it. My mum had no clue for a few years. And then she was like, she didn't even like flick through it first. She was just like, "There you go, Viz." So yeah, you're right. It's
It looks
probably
like a
Viz
nice
that I
little
got.
cartoon comic book.
Yeah. So you were all ID'd up, and did your, like, obviously at that age, what, 14, 15, 16, were you coming in drunk, or how was
Yeah.
that with your parents?
Yeah, so I do remember coming back home one night. We'd been to the youth club, came home, and I was trying really, really hard to not be drunk, which
Yeah.
I failed miserably. So I was sitting I came into the lounge, sat on the stairs were up to the second floor or in the lounge. So I sat on and I was kind of doing this. And then my mum was kind of asking me questions and I was trying to have this, straight conversation. And then all of a sudden I just knew that I needed to spew and I had to run up the stairs and just aimed for the toilet but missed the toilet completely. And I just remember my mum in the background going, "I'm not putting up with this shit. She's only 14 years old."
Oh,
Yeah. So
yeah.
I think I might have got grounded for a couple of weeks after that, but it didn't stop me once the
I was going to say it didn't
2 weeks
stop
was
you.
up.
Yeah, I think we get craftier at, hiding it or whatever. So I lived a couple of miles away from, and it was probably about 6 or 7 miles. So from where we used to hang out, where all my friends lived in the village, we'd moved out of our village, which was like the bane of my existence. So it was like I would have to rely on lifts getting home.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was like, I would obviously be stinking of booze, or I would be like, chewing mints, but I'd have to sit in the car with my mum and try and be sober until I got home, and then I could just go up to bed. So I'd have like a little, tried my best not to be slurring conversation, but eventually I would just be like staying at mates and things like that. So
Yeah.
yeah. So how did your schooling go, and so what did you go to college, or did you go straight into work?
So I finished, oh, they changed all the name, but it's like fifth form. So I did GCSEs and then I left. And at that point, I was kind of hanging out with this other group of people from another town, different school completely.
Sure.
We were drinking quite a bit then. I started smoking hash because hash was cheaper than weed back in the days. You used to get skunk, but we could never
couldn't
afford
get
skunk.
it. Yeah, that
Oh,
was
really?
like, well, I mean, it was there, but it was like this little, like up in Glasgow or whatever. If there was ever skunk or weed came through, it was like, oh my God, everyone was after it,
Yeah.
because the majority
Yeah.
of the time it was just brown resin that we were
Yeah.
smoking.
Yeah, you get the Moroccan stuff or the
Moroccan
or the
stuff, or the
flaky,
squidgy black, or the soap bar. Yeah.
So I used to do that, and then that sort of led into me taking acid, and then
At what
I
age?
did my GCSEs. What's that?
What age did the acid come on the
So I did
scene?
acid at 16.
Yeah.
Around then. And then I left school at 16 after my GCSEs and I decided to go to sixth form college. And all my other friends had stayed at school and I went off to sixth form college. And at that point I got my driver's license, turned 17, got my driver's license, and then we started going raving. So drinking wasn't really so much,
No,
wasn't really
not
a priority.
if you're taking ecstasy,
Yeah.
it wasn't really a thing, was
Yeah,
it?
I was taking
Maybe for the
Eames
come
and
down, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So I was doing that. And then at the age of 17, so I'd done a year of sixth form college. I was meant to do my A-levels over 2 years, obviously. Did a year of it. And then in the summer holidays, I was going out with this guy. I'd been going out with him for maybe 4 or 5 months. I went into the job centre to look for a job to tide us over the school holidays. And in the miscellaneous section of the job centre, there was a little piece of paper saying, do you like to travel, own accommodation, £100 a week per person, phone this number. And so I went home, talked to the boyfriend. Oh, what about this? Should we give them a call? Gave them a call. They answered, and it was, hello, Circus Harlequin. And it was a circus. So we ran away with the circus when I was 17, which I thought was a great idea. Yeah. We started off in Preston, I think. And then we moved around like the north of England for about a month, and then it didn't go very well.
Were you performers, or were you just helping like set up? And
no, we would go to the next town and just do all the flyering and stuff and putting the posters up and the billboards and everything, and then we would go back and help them take down the big top. And this was mid-90s. There was a lot of animals at the circus. It wasn't great at all. There was always a lot of animal protesters and stuff outside, but we would move the animals from one place to the next, set up the big top, and then we would move to the next town. So it was,
I mean, it's quite an experience, I guess, but obviously looking back, it was a bit kind of but
it was definitely it sent my life into a trajectory that I probably regret looking back now, but it was one of those things that at the time just sounded like it was going to be fun.
I mean, you're 17, you're like, let's go off and just, we're getting free accommodation, we're getting paid for it, and we can go and travel. And I'm guessing, like, in the circus, I'm sure there was people drinking and smoking weed and doing whatever, so you're just kind of traveling about.
So we did so we went from Preston over to Skegness. And the first week that we were at Skegness, we were actually in Inglemells, so just north of Skegness, and they used to have a rave there. I can't remember what it was called. I think it was called Fantasy Island. They had like this big triangle. It was a nightclub, and it was a big glass triangle, and they had like a rave in there. And me and my boyfriend had been drinking a lot of vodka. I didn't really drink spirits that much. I used to think that was that used to send me a bit loopy, so I was always a bit conscious of not drinking vodka. But anyway, we were drinking vodka. We ended up having a bit of an argument because we couldn't go to this rave because we didn't have any money. And this is when it all sort of took a bit of a nasty turn, because all of a sudden I woke up in the bushes and he'd given me a massive right hook and sort of flown me into the bushes with his fist. I got into trouble with the circus because I had two massive black eyes, and they said it was a bad look for the circus. So I wasn't allowed to work for a couple of weeks until my black eyes went down. It was pretty much, it started 4 years of pretty bad abuse with that partner. I was with him for 4 years, and that is really when my drinking escalated massively.
How long after you'd started going out with him did that start?
So we started going out with each other probably at the start of 1995, and this was probably around about 6 months later. So but he was the perfect boyfriend in front of my mum and dad. And then as soon as he kind of got me away, I was quite a long way away from home. And as soon as he kind of got me away from there, it sort of he changed his tune, shall we say.
He changed his tune. Yeah. And so like after the circus, you obviously were stayed with him for quite a while. How did that kind of transpire out then?
Yeah,
like,
so
where did you live and work, and was this like a constant thing going on, or would he be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to do that," and then a couple of months later?
It was pretty constant. It was we were together for 4 years in the end. So I ended up getting kicked out of the circus because he did it again when we were a little bit further up north. And they said, "Oh, it's not a good look for you to have black eyes. It's really, you're not representing the circus very well." Which, like I said before, it seemed a little bit mean.
Well,
sorry, not actually my fault.
But also, no one's coming to you and going, "Hang on, this is twice now. What's actually going on?" Like, what were you telling them that had happened? Obviously, maybe fell over or whatever.
Yeah. Just got drunk. I think I told my parents that I'd got into a couple of fights with a couple of chicks at pubs, which I'd never done before. I'd never been like that. I was never a violent drunk. I never got into a fight. So But I think when you're in that kind of situation, you'll just come up with all sorts of
Yeah, of
reasons.
course
I walked into a door, or I whatever.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I think
it
it's
just
sometimes you don't want, because, well, obviously you stayed with him for 4 years, so in a way you're kind of thinking, well, this is not who he really is, maybe, and then you
Mm.
don't want to tell people because I guess there's the shame in that as well, but also like you don't want to get him into trouble as well. So I don't
yeah.
know. I'm not trying to put thoughts in your mind, but it's like, yeah, I can understand the kind of why people aren't, because a lot of people go, oh my God, someone's just punched you. Why are you not telling people and doing that? It's not as easy as that, is it? It
No, it's
never, it
not.
never is. No,
It's
no.
not. There is a lot of shame involved, and also when you're in that kind of situation, you get. I mean, we ended up living in Skegness for a little while
Hmm.
randomly. So we lived in Skegness for a little bit, and then we went back and we lived with my parents for a little bit. Then we got our own flat, and we were both working. And then we moved to London, and then
Hmm.
when we got to London, about a year after we got to London, I slowly managed to meet some people that I worked with. I worked for a corporate company in near Oxford Circus, and I started making friends, and that was the big thing because he'd taken me away from all of my friends
Yeah.
and my parents, all of that. I was very isolated. And once I got to London, some people started to think like, oh, hang on a minute, I've got a scar up here. Like, how did you do that? It's like making up these excuses, blah, blah, blah. And some people kind of said to me, look, this isn't right. Do you need some help? And it was
Yeah.
then that I actually was able to get help and I managed to escape. So yeah, it was 4 years of pretty constant, like just, and lots of bad things happened. Yeah. So, but
And you
like I
were,
said,
I was going to
sorry,
say
go on.
you were drinking. You said it kind of escalated then to cope
Yeah.
with that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
what were your kind of
Definitely.
habits with that?
I
Were
was
you
just drinking all
drinking?
the
Were you drinking on
time.
your own or with him as well? Or
Um, to be honest, I can't really remember. I just know that I was drinking a lot. When we moved into
yeah,
our flat from my parents, we lived next to two pubs and an off license and an Indian takeaway. So that was like my. I used to, and the pub, the pub that we lived next door to, the ambulance got called one night and they came out and they asked me if I was all right. And they said, oh, we always hear you guys fighting. And I'm like,
mm,
well, why ever is this the first time that you've ever come to see if I'm all right when the ambulance and the cops have turned up? But
yeah,
yeah, it makes people uncomfortable, I think. And that's, yeah, it's, people don't want to get involved. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. There's so many things that you see. People on the street fighting or whatever, a couple fighting, and no one wants to get involved because they don't know. Well, it's not that they don't know what the situation is, but I've seen well memes or whatever where this guy was absolutely attacking this woman, and then this guy's gone over to kind of say, "Why, what are you doing?" And then she started attacking the guy that stopped it, because that was
Yeah.
just her life. And I'm not saying that that's right, or she wasn't in need of help. Of course she was, but she was so kind of stuck in that that she
Mm.
was almost protecting the guy that was beating her
Yeah.
up, and it's
Yeah,
but there's so many
absolutely.
different faculties of it, or different individuals, and it's like, so you don't know what's happening, and people
No.
are a bit wary of getting involved. I think more and more people should definitely get involved because they've got all these different little signs and things like of girls going into pubs. I don't know what they are, but
Yeah.
if they
Yeah.
say a certain word, or if they do hand movements and all of that kind of
Yeah.
stuff needs to be a bit more kind of prevalent, I
Yeah,
think. But
definitely. Yeah, we have that over here in New Zealand too, and I think it's a great initiative. But yeah, it's just like even when the cops were called, I ended up in hospital. I got stabbed, and I ended up in hospital, and the
Jesus.
cops came and they said, we've seen that you've been to hospital quite a bit over the last couple of years, and would you like to press charges? This is looking like a little bit of a pattern here.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, absolutely not. And they said, why not? I said, because if he gets out for whatever reason, he'll come straight to me. If he knows that I've talked about him to the cops,
Yeah.
I'm as good as dead.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna risk that. So yeah. Yeah.
Wow. And you got stabbed. And was he? ever remorseful of these things, or were they done? And I'm not trying to make any kind of allowances for him, but did he ever, was he under the influence when he was doing these things, you know?
Yeah, but I think it became, yeah, he was definitely, and I don't make excuses for him either because it was horrendous behaviour, but also
Yeah, because
I
someone that's
do
going
in
to
a
do
way
that,
because
like
what's
I
that?
was a
Sorry.
drinker. I was going to say, because I was a drinker, but I was never like a violent drunk or whatever. I could be belligerent and a bit shouty, but like I was never violent. And I think that's the thing. Like some people go, "Oh, well, he was drunk and all that," but it's, yeah, but that's still his character. Do you know what I mean?
Mm,
He's got that in him to do that. It doesn't matter whether maybe the drink gives him the more confidence to do something that he wouldn't do when he's sober, but he's still physically capable of doing that to,
yeah,
you know,
absolutely,
yourself, someone that he's
absolutely.
supposed to love. Yeah,
Yeah. But his dad
yeah,
used to do it to him, and his dad also used to do it to his mum. So he grew up with, and his mum wasn't. His mum had left him, left his dad, but so he grew up in that environment, and that
yeah.
was, and so it's kind of, I don't make excuses for him, but also,
You can
you
see the
can sort of,
reason.
you can
You
see,
can.
yeah, it
Yeah.
makes sense if you grow up around that, then it's obvious that
Yeah.
you're going to kind of continue that behavior, So it's sad, yeah,
It's
but
normalized behaviors with so many things, you know, when kids are so, like, a lot of people think, maybe not so much now, but people think, oh, they're just young, they're not seeing things, but they're soaking everything in. And, you
yeah,
know, we're talking about that kind of behavior, but also drinking in front of them, you know,
yeah,
that's a huge thing. Obviously, you
yeah,
yourself and myself didn't grow up with that, but it doesn't matter if our parents weren't doing it. It mean, you know, you're still seeing it on TV and around you, and it doesn't matter if your parents weren't drinking. We still went to pubs and things like that. My parents might have only had a couple, but I was still seeing
mhm,
adults drinking. And as a child,
yeah,
you're soaking that up and you're seeing that as a normalized behavior because you think,
yeah,
oh, they look happy and fun and all of that. So yeah, so it's understandable if people are growing up in that environment that, you know, they obviously need some kind of help to, you know, to stop that escalating throughout their life. But
yeah.
difficult.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
So
Yeah.
how did you get
Yeah.
out of that then? And you know,
So yeah, I just managed to I managed to get a couple of people that were happy to help me escape, basically, and it was literally like it was like an
yeah,
escape. Me and him were living in a bedsit in West Kensington.
yeah,
And a guy from work had got a flat on the other side of London, and he said, "You can rent that. It's empty. You can have it's yours if you want it." I'd been locked out, um, so he'd locked me out, and then he'd gone out, but he'd left the. We were on the first floor of one of those, those converted Victorian houses. We were on the
yeah,
first
yeah,
floor. I
yeah.
literally climbed up the drain pipe, up to the windowsill, pulled the window open, got in, let my friends in. We packed up all our shit, and then I was gone. And I got a taxi from one side of London to the other, which would have cost me an absolute fortune.
Yeah,
I had my cat we shared a cat, so I was like, fuck it,
yeah,
I'm taking the cat. So
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So
Wow.
just managed to get to the other side of London, and then he didn't know where I was. So that was, but it was, I mean, it was scary. I was looking over my shoulder for
I
a
bet.
long time, but just having that sort of, that friend support, some
Yeah.
people that could actually get me out, get me somewhere safe
Well, they
was what I needed.
recognized it and they were like, no, you need to do something about this, and then helped you. I mean, I'd love to have seen you climbing up the drain pipe. You know, obviously they weren't
I know.
plastic ones, they're old Victorian kind of clay or whatever it is, metal. So you're fine. But yeah, I bet the jubilation and the kind of excitement, obviously panic and fear, but like of getting away from that life and just kind of going,
Yeah.
right, this is it now. Yeah. And you
Yeah.
never saw him again.
I did see him a couple of years later.
Yeah.
I definitely needed counselling after that. I didn't get
Yeah.
counselling. I just got more drunk. So that's,
Right, right,
my
right.
drinking escalated. I started taking way more drugs. And I remember seeing him. There was a club in Brixton that I used to go to all the time, and it used to kick you out at 7 in the morning. And then we used to trudge up the hill, up Brixton Hill, and go to another club that was open all day until 6 o'clock the next day. It was
Yeah.
really messy. And he randomly turned up there once, and I was off my chops with a new boyfriend. And we sat and had a chat, and we said
Right.
goodbye, and I've never seen him since. So yeah,
Wow, wow.
but
Closure, that's good. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I hope he's maybe
I don't really believe in sort of holding grudges or
no.
I got away from him, and that's the main thing. So yeah, it's just
Exactly. I'm sure that part of your life, yeah, I mean, it did give you obviously, a lot of drinking and things like that, but it made you definitely a stronger person, I'm sure,
mhm.
from
Yeah,
having the resilience to get away from that and then
yeah,
do your own thing. Yeah. So
yeah.
were you still working in the kind of corporate job through the week and then getting trolleyed at the weekend? And how did
I
it kind of work?
I went through a bit of a phase of loot. Yeah, I left that job, got another job, lost that very quickly. I was just kind
Yeah,
of on a bit of a downward spiral for quite a while.
sure.
Yeah, decided to do a bit of study for a while. I was just getting drunk all the time. I moved into a house share near Herne Hill, and there
Hmm.
was six of us, three guys, three girls, party house. I mean, it was great. It was one of the best times of my life, but
Yeah.
yeah, very messy, and there was lots going on. I ended up moving down to Brighton, which I
Nice.
thought was going to be a fresh start and a clean slate. And obviously, anybody that's lived in Brighton can tell you that it's probably the worst move I ever made.
Brighton's
Ended up homeless
amazing,
in
but
Brighton.
If you want a quiet time, it's not Brighton.
Yeah, moved to
Like,
Hove.
yeah, yeah, move to Hove, move to Hove. No, I mean, I've only ever been to Brighton like a handful of times, but when we lived in London, we had friends that were down in Brighton, and we'd go down, and it would just be a messy weekend every
Yeah,
time. Yeah, like we'd
yeah,
go down there maybe the Thursday night, and then we'd be down on the beach, like in the clubs and all that until I think Sunday, and then we'd be heading back up in the train.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. But it's a
yeah.
great
No,
place. But yeah, as you say, it's like it's got this summer vibe, and yeah, just it's a very young kind of population down there, and everyone
yeah.
just is out for a good time. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, I mean, it was good. I moved down there not really knowing anybody. I knew a couple of people, but
Hmm.
I ended up getting in with this group of people that like to party, and I've pretty much worked in almost every bar in Brighton. I feel because I'd like get a job, and then I'd get fucked up. I'd lose that
Yeah,
job, so then I go like, okay, I'll go to the next pub and work
go to the
there,
next one.
get fucked up, don't turn up for work, lose that job, and I just kind of systematically worked my way through. But yeah, ended up homeless for a while. Yeah, just
Mm.
really, yeah, was not good. Didn't have any money. I was just any money I did have was going on drugs mainly. It was
Yeah.
a lot more drugs than drinking at that point. Um, and then I
When you say
met a
homeless,
Kiwi.
were you? Sorry to butt in, Abby. Were you like on the streets, or were you kind of sofa surfing at mates
Was
and
couch
stuff like that?
surfing. Yeah, I was
Yeah, yeah,
couch
yeah, yeah.
surfing, but I did spend 2 nights in a public toilet. So
Wow.
that was
Yeah.
the probably the lowest, the lowest of the low. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, then I met a Kiwi fella on the beach one night, and yeah, sort of things changed again there. We both decided to get out of Brighton because it wasn't really working for us. We were both into the drugs a little bit too much, so we ended up
Yeah.
moving up to Yorkshire together.
Oh, right,
Um,
okay. I mean, that's a bit
yeah,
quieter. Bit
yeah, a
quieter,
bit of a
yeah.
bit of a culture shock. It was this tiny
Yeah.
little country house hotel near Settle in
Oh, yeah,
Lancashire.
yeah, yeah.
I think it was Lancashire, and then yeah, did that for a while, and then slowly ended up in New Zealand. So yeah,
Mhm,
and then started
mhm.
pumping out kids. So yeah,
Yeah. So what age did you move to, and this became your husband, this fella you met, the Kiwi fella you met on
yeah,
the beach? Yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
what
yeah.
what
So,
what age did you move to? And I'm sure sounds like he liked to party as well.
yeah.
Yeah. So, and how long were you up in in Lancashire settled for?
We were in Lancashire for like maybe 8 months, I think.
Oh, okay,
Um,
okay.
yeah, and then we did a roadworks job, so we did stop and go. So he was stop and I was go. Did the roadworks round Oxfordshire and sort of that sort of area. Lived in a caravan. Again, lived in a caravan, but
Yeah.
it wasn't like the circus caravan, so a bit different. Earned lots and lots of money for that job, and then that's what paid for us to come over to New Zealand. So, yeah,
You made a lot of money doing the stop and go, yeah?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow,
It's
wow,
very
that's good.
lucrative. Yeah, if
Yeah,
you can handle
no one
it.
wants to do it. No one wants to do
No,
it. So
that's
yeah,
it.
it's like a grown up lollipop lady and man. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was. I always feel a little bit of I have a bit of a soft spot for when I see them here on the street, on the roads in New Zealand. I'm always like a bit of a kindred spirit, you know.
I don't know. I don't know why, but I like. I mean, I've not done jobs like that, but I've done jobs that are kind of menial and like boring and whatever. So I like if I see guys doing that, I will always give them a nod, and a wave just to say kind of thanks. You're doing a
Yeah.
great job
Well, they're
because
earning good money, so
well, yeah.
just yeah,
And the
they're
next
earning good
time I'll
money.
put my window down, I'll be like, "Lend us a tenner, mate."
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, Abby, what age did you move to New Zealand then with your new fella?
So I came to New Zealand in 2005, so I was 27.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
So, and then what, like, did he like a drink and were your drinking habits a bit more calmer that you'd moved out of Brighton and now over in New Zealand or?
I think, to be honest, like looking back, like we're not together anymore. So I,
Hmm.
after I got sober, I actually decided to leave him. So we're not together anymore. But I think I've obviously reflected a lot on our time together. We were together sort of 19 years. So
Yeah.
I think I was the drinker,
Yeah.
and he was. I mean, he, don't get me wrong, he still drinks. Yeah, he definitely liked to party, and he still does. But I would be the one that was kind of like pushing it a lot more.
Yeah.
He could have a couple of beers, have dinner, cup of tea, and he's good to go to bed, whereas I'm just getting started after dinner and I'm cracking open the bottles of wine, and he was drinking them with me so that I wouldn't drink them all myself. So, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I was
And to
kind
be
of definitely
social,
a
I
bit more
guess,
of
as
an
well.
enabler.
But yeah.
What's
Yeah.
that,
Because I
sorry?
mean, I was going to say, and to be social with you as well, I suppose if someone is drinking, then you're like, well, go on, then I'll have another one or two. But
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, if my ex partner hadn't drank some of the wine, I would have just drank it all. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah,
I think in her
yeah.
own way, she was drinking maybe a glass or
To
two out of
protect
that.
you a little bit.
Yeah, but I had vodka
It's
in the
always a little bit of
bathroom.
protection, I think.
I had vodka in the bathroom, so it wasn't really making any real difference. You know what I mean? So yeah,
Yeah.
it's mad. And but you guys, so what were you doing work wise in New Zealand? Because you had a restaurant at one point. Was
Yeah,
that
we had, yeah, and
you had
that
a
was the
couple?
other
Yeah.
little bit of an enabler thing there too. We had two restaurants. So when we first moved over here,
Yeah.
obviously he's a Kiwi. We sort of stayed in the area where he was from.
Hmm.
And I said, I don't care where we end up as long as it's not here, because it's, I'd pretty much come from Brighton and that sort of, and even Yorkshire to an extent. It's very different when you come to small town New Zealand. It's very, very
Hmm.
different. And so we ended up working for 6 months down in Milford Sound, which is right at the bottom of the South Island. Absolutely amazing, huge tourist spot.
Hmm.
Just
Busy.
incredible, incredible location. So we did that for
Hmm.
6 months. He's a chef, and so he was cooking, and I was doing housekeeping and waitressing. And
Hmm.
then after that, we moved up to Wellington. He got a job at a catering company that he'd used to work for, and I worked for a finance company. And we did that for a year, and then I got pregnant with our with our oldest.
Hmm.
Um, and we decided to move back up to be closer to his parents for some support.
Support.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So when we were up there, I was still pregnant with Zoe. He heard about a restaurant that was opening at the Waitomo Caves, which is another big tourist place. And the guy wanted him to be the head chef. So we moved there, and Zoe was actually born on opening night.
All
Um,
right.
we did that. So we had Zoe, and then very quickly after that, we had Leah. And then when we were pregnant, very quickly after that with Marley, the restaurant owner was going to sell the business. We
Hmm.
were going to be out, Andy was going to be out of a job. And we decided to buy it very, very cheap. So we bought a failing business with 3 kids under 3. And once again, my drinking
Well,
escalated because it
this
was
is
quite
what I was
stressful.
this is what I was going to say, Abby. So, like, obviously, you had the kids in quick succession. So,
Mm,
I'm assuming that you didn't drink through your pregnancy. So, was that like
no.
nearly 3 years that you didn't have booze
Yeah, well,
for?
yeah, I guess so. I definitely drank as soon as the babies were born, I was drinking. So
Yeah,
there
yeah,
was,
yeah, yeah.
maybe sort of 8 months with Zoe. There's, yeah, There's 16 months between Zoe and Leah, and then there's 19 months between Leah and Marley. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, but 3 under
So
3,
like
it
on
was,
and off kind of thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
but definitely wasn't drinking. That was the only time that I could quit drinking was when I was pregnant, which I think is the case for a lot of women. You know, we sort of, you know, we do that for the kids, but we won't do it for ourselves. You know,
This is so
so
bizarre. Yeah, like as I
mm,
say, every female that's a mother that I've had in the podcast is exactly the same. They've given it up
yeah,
for the 9 months and even a couple of months breastfeeding. But one of them was like, no, I'm not going to breastfeed my kid because she wanted to get back on the booze. Like that
yeah,
was her kind of rule. But still not doing it for 9 months. And it's like, yeah, why is it we know that it's poison to our unborn child?
yeah,
And yet we're like, but it's fine for us because I'm an
yeah,
adult. I'm immune to this poison. It's like it's bonkers,
exactly,
isn't it? Like
exactly,
what? Where does
yeah.
that come from? Yeah.
We're very
So
good
I
at
guess it.
convincing ourselves.
Well, exactly. But I guess it was exciting, and stressful, but exciting to have this new, as you say, failing business. But yeah, it's exciting to build it up because you're still early 30s at this point, so you're still kind of
Yeah, yeah,
young,
yeah,
and well, you're
yeah.
still young now, Abby. So I'm not going
Of
to say that,
course,
but
of course.
it's like you've got this new, and you well, he's a chef, the industry inside out because you've worked in many bars and waitressing and all that, so you guys know the business. I would have loved to have had, well, I did have my own pub at one point, and that didn't work out, but anyway, it's like it must have been exciting, to be in that new venture. Yeah, so
Yeah,
how
it
did that
was.
kind of
It
go?
was. It was really cool. We had yeah, it was. I mean, it was definitely a failing business. There's no question. We'd have no customers at all sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, but then we had a few wins. We had a few famous faces come through that kind of helped us out, with publicity and stuff like that. And so that was,
Sure.
then people started coming, and the global economic crisis sort of, that had happened, and then people were
Yeah.
starting to travel back through again, and so we did that for a while, and then we got the opportunity to open another one in the town where we actually lived. So we did that in 2015. So then we had two restaurants.
Wow.
Wine selection completely chosen by me. All my favorite wines. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Out account at
Yeah.
the booze shop. It was just a recipe for disaster, really. So yeah.
And so your ex partner was he was the head chef. What was your role with that? Were you like the kind of head of
So
house
I
or
did
whatever you
all the
call
yeah.
it?
So I was in
Yeah,
charge of the front of house, and then also
yeah.
just all the background stuff. So the wages, the invoices, and all that kind of stuff, social media, and all that. Yeah, yeah,
And were you drinking while you were working?
yep, absolutely. Yeah.
Have you seen that Stephen Graham film? And then I think they did a series of it as well. It's all shot in one take. I think. Oh, what's it called? Where he's basically a restaurant manager in this really posh London restaurant,
Okay.
and he he's a bit late to work, and he's obviously having problems with his ex and his child and all that, and he's on the phone to them throughout the day, but he's like snorting lines in his back office, and he's drinking like quite heavily. But every single shot, the whole film, it's like an hour and a half, and it's one take. So they just have
Yeah,
one camera
amazing.
the whole way, so everyone's ready on their marks to start doing their acting in it, and it's honestly it's brilliant, and it's basically just the whole kind of decline of him throughout the day,
Yeah,
and because they've got this restaurant critic coming, and he used to know him and all that, and but I'll find out the name for you. It's a brilliant film, but it's just a
yeah,
powerful
cool.
depiction of addiction as well, because you're just seeing this guy who's trying to keep everything together, but
Yeah,
in actual fact, he's just falling apart. But he's
yeah,
trying to keep on this brave face. So I'm not saying you were exactly like that, but obviously you're kind of drinking on the job because, like, hey, what you know what I work in the industry, so why not? Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. There was definitely coffee cups that weren't full of coffee, and
yeah,
yeah, definitely sort of little secret stashes around the place, but yeah, and there's obviously doing that, and having two restaurants, and then obviously the kids as well. The kids are at school age at this point, but they've got swimming and after school activities, dance,
yeah,
and all that kind of stuff. And so I'd pick them up from school, and then go and drop them off at swimming, and then go to the off license and pick up a 6-pack of something, and then kind of cruise around the streets drinking that while they were at swimming instead of watching them and supporting them. and then, pick them up and then take them home and stumble my way through dinner and, and then crack open the wine once they were in bed. So, yeah,
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 yeah.
it
I mean,
was messy.
yeah, and like, when did you start realizing that there was maybe an issue there? Like, did you know from a while back? Because I mean, looking at me, I probably knew there was an issue from like my kind of early 20s, but I was like, well, this is just who I am. I didn't,
Yeah.
fortunately have kind of children that I needed to be kind of responsible for. It was just me. I only needed to look after me, and I wasn't doing a very good job of that. But at what point did you kind of start thinking there's an issue here?
Um, I think I always knew that it was an issue. Like I said, like from the get go, I was drinking to get drunk.
Yeah, yeah.
I definitely, as I approached my 40th birthday, I
Mhm.
started kind of looking at my friends and sort of thinking, when we're at restaurants out for dinner, I'm getting agitated because they're just literally sitting on that glass of wine for so long. Like, hurry the fuck up. I want another
Yeah,
drink,
yeah,
but that kind of that impatience. And I'd always preload before and sort of come in a little bit, bit chirpier than everybody else. And I didn't, I don't know, like everything that I read, you do the kind of Google, am I an alcoholic? And you'd
yeah.
answer it in a way that it would say that you weren't,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
you'd
yeah,
be
yeah,
like,
yeah. Because you
well,
just
I'm going to
click to
grade.
the next page.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
work out that if you give it like a 4 out of 5 too often, then that's definitely really bad. You want to kind of like be down the other end of the scale, so it's
exactly.
bullshit.
Yeah, yeah.
But I remember reading a book by a New Zealand author, who I've actually had on my podcast before, Lotta Dan, and it was called Mrs. D is Going Without. And it was
Mm,
about her. Yeah, it's a really good book. It's really funny, and I read it and I was like, shit, this is really relatable. Maybe I'm not the only one, because I think that's the problem for a lot of people. They don't want to admit that there might be an issue because they don't want to admit that they're feeling like that, because a lot of people do
yeah.
feel like they're the only person feeling like that, right?
Of
So,
course,
um,
absolutely.
yeah, like everyone else can handle it. Like, what's my problem, sort of thing. But
Yeah, yeah.
so I had my 40th, and just that was an absolute write off. And then I decided to do, I can't remember now whether it was a 30-day challenge or a 90-day challenge, but it's kind of irrelevant. It was through 1 Year No Beer on the Facebook, from back in the
Hmm.
day. Um, I couldn't get past day 10. And
Yeah.
I always say that that's when I realized that I had a drinking problem, because
Hmm.
it wasn't until I tried to quit that I realized that I couldn't quit. And that was quite scary for me. I didn't complete the challenge, and I just kind of put it in the too hard basket. Kind of thought about it a couple of times throughout the year, and then in the November, my middle daughter was 9, and she said, "Mummy, I don't like the sound of your voice when you drink."
Mm.
Um, and yeah, it really shocked me. It
Yeah.
wasn't that I was scary or that, it was just slurred and loud and just a little bit obnoxious and
Hmm.
just irritating.
Yeah.
So I got drunk that night. I put them off to bed, and then I got drunk that night and sat by myself drinking, trying to process what she'd said. And
Hmm.
I filmed myself. Um, and we've talked about this when you
Yeah,
when you
yeah,
came
yeah.
on
When
my
I was on
podcast. We
yours,
talked about this
yeah,
because
yeah,
Kate did the same thing,
yeah,
walking the straight line. So
yeah.
I filmed myself. I just said, I need help. My daughter's just told me this. I don't want to be that mum. I don't even like drinking anymore. I'm drinking tonight, but I'm going to finish this and then I'm going to reset the counter and I'm going to go again. And I
Wow.
just need some help. And I posted it on 1 Year No Beer, and then I toddled off to bed. And then woke up in the morning, and I'd sort of forgotten, but I always checked 1 Year No Beer in the morning. And I was like, holy shit, I've got all these messages, all these
Blown up.
notifications. Yeah, I was like, fuck, what did I do? And yeah, it was just people just supporting me and just
Yeah,
saying, holy shit, you're brave. That is amazing. Like all just so supportive. And I think that's when I made the decision to myself to actually, I need to quit now. Yeah.
yeah,
But it took another 3.5 years before I actually quit. So yeah, it was a
yeah.
process. It was definitely a
Well,
process.
it's when you'd make that decision, and it's funny, Luke Jones, that I think you've had on your
Yeah,
podcast. He's been on mine. Lovely
yeah,
guy. It was a similar thing. It was I think it was one of his boy said to him, "Dad, are you?" And he'd asked his son, or he'd got him to get a beer from the fridge or something, or he saw him going and getting a beer from the fridge, and his kid said to him, "Dad, are you an alcoholic?" And it was like
mm,
that realization, that kind of moment when he was like, "Oh my God, if my kids are seeing this and that's what they think of me, like that must be the
yeah,
most horrible thing ever to kind of process." So
yeah.
yeah, it's
Well, nobody wants
interesting.
to be that parent, right? Nobody
Nobody wants to
wants
be that parent.
your kids to
Nobody.
think that of you.
I
Yeah,
mean, there probably are some that are like, yeah, kid, and this is what you're going to be like soon as well. So get me another beer from the fridge. There are probably
yeah,
people like that, but let's be
yeah,
honest, the majority of us don't want to be that person, and it's not a good place to be. And it's
yeah,
I've been reading William Porter's book, Alcohol Explained. I should have read it
yeah.
years ago, but I'm just getting round to it because there's so many out there. But it's fascinating, and this is the one thing that I've kind of really honed in on now. Like I shouldn't even ask you because I know what the answer is going to be. Did you ever do hair of the dog or drinking to alleviate the pain of a hangover?
Oh, absolutely. All the time.
Yeah,
All the time.
yeah.
I used to get up
I,
in the morning. So I used to buy a 6 pack of gin. And
yeah,
then, like I said, like I drive the kids around to their after school activities. I'd probably have like maybe 3 or 4 in the car. And then we
yeah.
drive home. And then after that, I'd be on the red wines. So that was, so I might have another couple of cans hidden underneath my
Under the
car
seat.
seat.
Yeah,
And then that would be what I would drink on the way down to work the next day.
yeah. Because
Yeah.
what William Porter says, and it makes perfect sense, because I like, even if it wasn't for a hair of the dog, what I was doing back in my early days was I didn't have a problem drinking in the morning. And the thing is, with the hair of the dog, it doesn't have to be in the morning. You can struggle through that day at work or whatever, feeling like absolute shit. But then you get to 5 o'clock and you're like, right, I can have a drink. And what it is the neural pathways in your brain is telling you that you know what can take away the pain of the hangover now, because it's getting another alcoholic drink. So
Yeah.
for that short space of time that you feel better, your brain is associating that with the new alcoholic drink. And he
Yeah.
reckons that that is kind of one of the tipping points that turns the normalized drinker into the, for want of a better word, alcoholic. And it's
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
simple. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I was
Well, you're just
speaking to,
topping up, right? You're just
yeah,
topping up.
you're just
Yeah.
topping up. I was speaking to Jen last night, and she's like, "There's no way, shape, or form ever in her life has she ever thought, I'm feeling like crap, I'm gonna have another drink to make me feel better." So there's
Yeah.
two people in this world. There's
Yeah.
us, and there's Jen, my wife. But
Normal
they
people.
would, normal people, yeah, because I would never even think twice. I'd be like, and it's that instant gratification, isn't it? I'm feeling like crap. I know if I have a drink, it's going to make me feel 10 times better. So that's just
Yeah.
that. And it's a slow process, or it can be quick, but it's just that tipping point, and then it's like the downward spiral. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Definitely.
it's really crazy. So after that point, did you have any kind of real rock bottom moments, or was it more just a kind of steady trying to get into full-time recovery?
It just to be honest, it became a battle.
Mm-hmm.
Um so it took so I tried to quit in the April when I turned 40, and then in the November, Leah had sort of said that then I had that kind of catalyst Facebook moment. And I didn't quit until March 2022. So 4 years on Thursday, just saying.
Ah,
It's coming up.
perfect.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
pretty cool. But I honestly reckon that my drinking got worse, like in that 3.5 years. So
Yeah.
I would go I'd go some stretches. The most I ever did was 89 days, 79
Right.
days, something like that. I didn't even make it to a round number because I went to the airport and flew to Peru with a friend, and we had cocktails at the airport. So I didn't
And
even make it to
you're
80.
so close to the 90 days, because the
I
90 days
know.
is like that magic number where, like, 90, 100 days where it's like suddenly you're like, oh, pink cloud,
I
hello,
know,
this
yeah.
is good. Yeah,
Everything's rainbows and butterflies. But yeah, no, I
absolutely. Of
didn't even
course
get
it
to
is.
that.
Yeah,
So I get
yeah.
some days, like every other day would be a day one. Then some days I'd just give up completely and I'd just get pissed for ages. And then sometimes I'd have like 40, 50 days under my belt, get triggered by the most inconvenient thing, and then just knock a bottle of wine back for no reason. So it was a lot of learning, a lot of frustration. Alcohol Explained by William Porter was actually the game changer for me. So I listened
Yeah.
to that on an ebook, on an audio book, about 6 or 8 months before I fully quit.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I'd done This Naked Mind, but right
Mm-hmm.
at the start. And
Mm-hmm.
then I'd read lots of like quit lit, funny anecdotes and lovely stories. Well, not lovely stories, but, stories that I could relate to.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but you kind of just brush them off because it's a little bit, because they're comical, or it's like, oh, I've done that, I've fallen in a ditch and blah blah
Yeah.
blah, isn't it funny? But the scientific stuff, with William Porter, it really got in my head, and it
Yeah.
really made me think, shit, like I can relate to this, and this is why I'm feeling depressed, this is why I'm feeling like this is where that
Mm-hmm.
anxiety is coming from, all of these things. And it was really scary, and it still
Mm-hmm.
took me another few months to fully quit. But I credit that with being like pretty much the game changer for me. It wasn't. I knew I was almost done after I listened to that. So
Yeah.
yeah. So
We
William
still
Porter's
have
a
to go
hero of
out.
mine.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm trying to get him on the pod. I'm sure he will, hopefully at some point. But it's like
Yeah,
we keep going out and testing it, but every time we go out, we're like, oh yeah, because it's that whole thing, right? And it's so weird to think now. I mean, congratulations on 4 years coming up on Thursday, yeah,
yeah. It's on the 5th of March.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So like, but it's like that whole at that point on like day one or before the day one, it's like the thought of never having an alcoholic drink again is so daunting and so
mm,
terrifying at that point. It's like we have to keep going out and testing it just to make sure that we can't moderate. And for me, it was like every time I went back out, it was 10 times worse than the one before. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? Like when I was
yeah,
drinking, like I'd maybe have a relapse and then I'd go out and just get myself a quarter bottle. And then the next time I'd go out and get myself a half bottle. Because I was just getting back to my level quicker and
yeah,
quicker each time. I wasn't
yeah,
even starting with the beers when I was like I've had like I don't know, like a month or two off. And then like instead of just having like a glass of wine, when I knew I was gonna have a drink, I would go straight to the vodka and just
yeah,
down it. And it's like, wow. And it's almost like this coiled spring just being pulled back every time, and it's like just getting more and more of a kind of impact each time. So yeah,
yeah,
it's madness, but we do have to test it. And then once we realize, like now, I'm like, you know what? If the fact that I can't ever have a drink again in my life, I'm fine with that. I'm
yeah,
okay. I'm not bothered about
yeah,
it now. But it's getting
yeah,
to that point where you have like retrained the brain, rewired it to think, yeah, because why do we need another drink? But in those
yeah,
initial days, the thought of never having that alcoholic drink ever again is like, oh my God, because it's been such a big part of our life.
yeah. Well, that's
It's
the
been
thing. I
a
mean, who are you without it? When it's been your idea, it's been part of my. It was, I was drinking from the age of 14 to
yeah,
44, as 30 years. And that's my
yeah,
identity. And it's how I've coped with everything that's happened in life, and all of a sudden to not have that, it's scary. And to know, because deep down that you're going to lose friends.
yeah.
Those drinking buddies they're not going to want to hang out with you anymore. And are you ready to lose those people? Like I got to the point where I knew I was an all or nothing when it came to drinking. So
Hmm.
I'm either going to drink until I'm annihilated, or I'm not going to drink at all. That's that first drink that gets me into trouble. So I can't have that first drink. And if I don't have that first drink, I'll be fine, because it's the first drink that leads to the second, that leads to fucking whatever, oblivion,
Oblivion. Yeah,
blackout,
yeah,
whatever it is, So
yeah,
once I got that in my head and I was okay with just not having that first drink, that was the
yeah.
first thing. And then I would always get FOMO around the 40 to 50 day mark. That's when I used to go back to drinking. And then I suddenly got to the point where I was like, do I want to hang out? Like, do I want to hang out with these people, or do I
Hmm.
want my sobriety more? And I wanted my sobriety more. And so that was the other thing. And so once I was happy with both of those, and I accepted that both of those two things were what I wanted, then
Hmm.
I became sober. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And what do you
But big
think?
thoughts though.
What's that? Sorry.
they're just big thoughts to have, though,
Oh,
you know, because you've got to be
absolutely.
100% ready. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because as you
Yeah.
say, it's your best friend, it's your coping mechanism, and it's just what you've known, it's your identity. What do you
Mm.
think was the thing that scared you most about getting sober?
Um, Probably just the having to deal with all the shit that I had um, tried not to deal with for a long
Yeah,
time. Like
yeah, yeah.
I've had, like I've had counselling and stuff about, my abusive relationship. I should have
Yeah.
had that years and years ago, but I've had counselling over that. I've gone through. I was unhappy in my marriage
Yeah.
towards the end, but actually, again, hindsight, I actually wrote my ex-husband a letter at the start of this year, and I apologized to him for my behavior when
Mhm.
we were still together, because I said, actually, I was just really deeply unhappy in myself and I took it out on him. And I'm just sorry about that. So I've apologized for that, because I think, you can sort of think that it was all one person's fault, but it never is, yeah. And I definitely played a part in the breakdown of our relationship. So I've had to kind of own up to that and apologize, which is cool, because
Of
we've
course.
actually got a good relationship now. So
Yeah,
yeah,
you've got
it's
kids
through
together.
that.
You're going to be in each other's lives for, until the end. So, you've
Yeah.
got to have a good kind of relationship. And
Way the
yeah.
kids are now 18, 17, and 15, so
Oh,
two of them
perfect.
are
Yeah.
driving. Yeah,
Yeah,
two of
yeah,
them are
yeah, yeah.
driving. Zoe's actually coming over to the UK in a couple of months. Actually, she's going to come and work over in the UK for a while, so she's we're planning that at the moment. But the other two are still at high school, so they're at high school down here.
Cool.
So yeah, and then they just go up to him most weekends. They go up to him, so he gets to see them then. So yeah,
That's cool. That's cool.
yeah.
And what surprised you most about your sober life?
Just probably just how, I don't know what surprised me the most. um just that I can handle life without being drunk.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
actually, I've created a pretty good life for myself in the last 3 years, 4 years.
Yeah.
Sorry, God, I can't
Yeah.
even get my head around the fact that it's nearly 4 years. But
Yeah, it's
I've
crazy.
started from scratch, and I've gone through some pretty. It was when I left my marriage. There was a lot happened in that first year,
Yeah.
and it was very, very stressful, very emotional, and I handled it all without a drink. And I think
Yeah.
that was a really, really good lesson, because when I talk about what actually happened, um, it's actually, I mean, it was pretty amazing, like pretty crazy, but people are just like, what the fuck, you managed to get through all of that without a drink, and it's proof that you can. And if I
Yeah.
can get through that year, then I can get through anything.
Yeah.
So
In that
yeah.
first year where some of us are just kind of, well, I don't want to use the word white knuckling because I knew I was getting sober and staying sober, but we're going through all of these emotional, turmoil and new life and new friends and all that. You're going through counseling, breakdown of your marriage, the breakup of your marriage, and getting sober. I mean, it's
Yeah.
so commendable. So, at what point did you think I want to be a sober coach? Because obviously, if you've got through that, then you can pass your wisdom on to other people and support them. So, which is an amazing thing,
Yeah.
Abby. So, well done, you.
Yeah, thank you. So when I got to 80 days, because I'd never got that far before,
Yeah, yeah,
I set up an Instagram page.
yeah,
And it was 100% just to keep myself accountable, and I would just kind of post on there most days. Um, and then I'd start getting messages from people saying, "Oh my god, like I've read your thing, and it's the reason why I didn't drink tonight." And
no, wow,
you get messages from people on the other side of the world, and it was like, "Holy shit, that's really cool." Like something that
yeah,
I've said has influenced somebody to not have a drink. Like that's epic.
yeah,
Then I sort of did a diploma in psychology and counseling, and yeah, just I don't know, just helped a few people locally that I knew.
mm-hmm.
And then just decided to last year I just decided to kind of actually make a business out of it. So yeah,
Yeah,
I've been doing it for almost a year now. But my sober page, my
yeah,
sober page has kind of like grown with that, and it's sort of evolved. It was telling my story very nicely from the last sort of 4 years. it has since been taken down in the last couple of months thanks to Meta. And yeah, I've basically
Bastards,
lost
Abby.
all. I know. I've just I've lost everything from the last 4 years, pretty much just overnight. So I'm just
Yeah.
setting up a new account at the moment. But yeah, it's pretty sad. Yeah, but
Oh,
I'll still keep doing the work. So
it's absolutely gutting because obviously we were in touch. You know, I was on your podcast, and then like I was looking through my messages on Instagram, and I was going to message you or something, and I was like, oh, you know, when your avatar pictures kind of disappeared, but your thing's still there. So I messaged you, and I was like, and then it was like not going through, and then I looked at your page, and I was like, oh, what's going on here? And now my, you know, and I didn't think this, but like my first reaction, because I see a lot of people that have been messaging me, and then I go back to message them, and it's like, you know, avatar's gone, their page is closed down. 9 times out of 10, that means in our world that they've relapsed. And I
yeah,
was like, oh my God. So I was like, right, email you straight away. And then it was like, right, she's okay. She's just obviously been having to deal with meta shits. So
yeah.
yeah, it's absolutely
Yeah, it's
gutting.
pretty. It's been quite emotional, because,
Yeah,
like I said, even just looking back at the my Instagram page from the last 4 years of like the evolution of it, starting off as
yeah.
me being accountable to myself, and then building it up into a coaching, and then starting my podcast, and so my podcast page is gone as well, and
Mm-hmm.
that's been
Mm-hmm.
going since last April, and all of the clips that I'd shared, and I'd done interviews with you and Sober Dave and Kate and Happy Without the Hooch and so many, and Luke, and so many
Yeah,
different people. All of that's just gone.
it's just
It's
gone.
just so much work to get it back up and running again. So
And also,
yeah,
like the
gutting.
thing is, we all think like because it's my Instagram account, I own it, but actually they own it and they keep all that data. You know, they've got all
Yeah,
my pictures. Like I'm not keeping a
yeah,
record of it. So, you know, it's almost like, you know, I think when I had my old Facebook account, I did the sensible thing because I was like, there's too many people on there that I don't know who the hell they are. I worked in a temp job and I've added them, and it was like just random. There was random rants, but it was like from 2007 up to 2020. So there was all that stuff. So I had the
yeah,
insight to go and get the data from Meta, and I downloaded it.
yeah, right.
So maybe that's the thing that we do every year. Once a year, we download our stuff because this
Yeah,
can happen
it's
to
one of
anyone.
those things though. It's like if you always
Oh,
say that you got to back in the day with your phone, and I've got to make sure that I've got these contacts somewhere, and then you lose your phone and you lose everybody. It's one of those things that it's always a good idea when you think back to, I should have done that, but you don't. But you
yeah,
don't.
yeah. And I'm
So
saying this now, but I'm not probably going to go and do it now after the
yeah,
podcast. I'll be like, yeah,
exactly.
oh, damn it. Why did I do that? No, everyone, you should go and download all your data from Meta just now,
Yeah,
just in case they decide to
absolutely,
shut you
absolutely.
down.
So.
Um, Abby, what role do you think alcohol still plays in our society, if at all? I mean, we know it does still have a role, but what role do you think it's got?
I think it's just got too much of a role in society.
Yeah.
I think it's I mean, New Zealand's pretty much the same as the UK. It's very ingrained in the society over here.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a companion for people. Like it's something it was my best friend for a while. It was my only friend sometimes, when I was in the depths of my sad marriage, and yeah, it keeps people company for too long. It makes them think that they can't live without it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just an unnecessary. It's unnecessary, but unfortunately, it's just too ingrained in our society for it to be likely to leave anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
Yeah,
having a few debates on my YouTube with some people that are messaging, and it's just kind of blown up in the past couple of days. Of people kind of, there's been a few knobheads coming on there and saying, "Oh, yeah, I'm gonna go and have my drink, so you can bugger off or whatever." Anyway, but like, there's been this debate about, and I'm just saying, like, a lot. There was a guy saying, "Well, they brought out the photos on cigarettes in 2010, and it hasn't really done anything. There's still smokers everywhere," and I'm like, where are you? Because there's definitely much less smokers where I am. I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
I don't think I know any smokers apart from maybe one
No,
or
of
two now.
actual
Whereas,
cigarettes.
yeah,
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 papers
exactly.
though.
Whereas used to be like everyone I knew pretty much was a smoker,
Yeah,
back in the day. Yeah, we were younger and blah blah blah. But yeah, and I'm like, with the alcohol, I'm not saying outlaw it. Just stop the advertising and put labels on the bottles. And I actually
Yeah,
went and had a
yeah,
look yesterday, and actually the bottles over here I don't think they say drink responsibly anymore. They say um uh, drinking this may cause harm to your health. So may cause harm to your
okay,
health. So it is getting a little bit there, but that doesn't really mean anything. And then it's like recommended drinking should be 14 units per week. And I was like, who does that? It's like a night, you
yeah,
know? So
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So I was saying that, like, I think if these two things are brought in, like the advertising straight away, because we make it glamorized, we make it look like we're all gonna have, like, you know, beautiful bikini bodies or washboard stomachs sitting on a beach drinking martinis or Bacardis. Like, that's not the
yeah.
reality. Even out in
No,
those
they
hot
need to.
countries, it's like, you know, spring break, it's just carnage, people throwing up everywhere. So it's not
Yeah, yeah,
what we're being shown on TV. And I think once you stop that and you put the labels on the bottles, I think it's going to take a while, but there'll be a slow marked change. Because I
yeah,
think the smoking, they were saying 20% of adults in 2010 smoked, and now it's down to 10%. So that's a
yeah. Right.
huge amount. I mean, it's still
Yeah,
a
it's
huge
massive,
amount of
eh?
smokers, but you know, it's a massive decrease. So yeah, so just been
Yeah,
having that little debate, and I think, you know, we don't need the advertising. Like, people know what alcohol is, and I reckon if you
yeah,
went up to like some 8 or 9 year olds, gave them labels of drinks, like famous drinks, without the actual wording on it, you know, like Smirnoff or Carlsberg or Guinness, they would know pretty much
no,
what that was,
yeah,
because it's so ingrained in us from an early
yeah,
age that it would be like, yeah, it's
yeah,
absolutely
definitely,
madness. So I think we
definitely.
just need to be having more conversations about this in the world, and the governments just need to kind of step up, because they'll save money. This is the thing.
Yeah,
No one wants to
yeah,
be
yeah,
the
yeah,
unpopular government, but we're not saying outlaw. We're just saying put on advert. Yeah, get rid of the adverts and put on labels. And
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
I think it's interesting. I've had a couple of conversations recently about with a couple of my clients actually, just about, you know, when I grew up in the 90s in the UK.
yeah,
My influences that I used to look at were people like Zoe Ball,
yeah,
you know, those that ladette culture where they were swigging pints and smoking fags and they were drinking all the boys under the table. And that's what we tried to emulate. We wanted to be like that. We wanted to swig pints and be like one of the lads, you know, whereas
yeah,
my girls, their influencers, yes, okay, TikTok, social media, you know, it's not great, but their influencers are people that are going to the gym. You know,
yeah,
they're not swigging pints. They're, you know, there's a healthy, it's all about well-being and mental health. And I think that is why we're seeing such a drop in, you know, the generations of now not drinking as much, because it's a totally different influencer. I mean, they weren't even called influencers back then, but
no,
that's exactly what they were, you know. So
yeah.
yeah, it's interesting.
And Zoe Ball, she's sober now. I think Sarah Cox is sober. There's a lot of them from back then. Chris Evans, obviously, he was, you know, he influenced us as well, and I think so. He's sober. Liam Gallagher said he's gone sober. I think he did
Yeah,
100 days over the tour, and he had a drink on the final night of the final gig,
yeah,
and
right.
just made an absolute fool of himself and didn't feel right. And then he was like, "I'm getting back on the wagon." So it was like, good on
Yeah,
you, like Liam Gallagher getting sober. Like,
yeah.
when did that?
Who'd have
But
thought?
actually, when I was on Twitter or X like a few years ago, and maybe, I mean, this was probably before the was it before the pandemic? Can't remember. I don't think I was sober, but I was watching his posts and comments on Twitter, and it was like, oh my god, just an absolute car crash. And I think he did admit back then in one of the films that he's made that he was having a rough time with alcohol, because he was just
Yeah, right.
basically posting like any of his thoughts. And it was like, because, you know, you can tell when someone's pissed and they're at home writing on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, and it's just all
Yeah,
their like drunken
it's
thoughts
garbage.
coming out. Yeah, it's just absolute nonsense. It's like, oh, I got a friend over here and I see him doing that at the moment, and he's back out there, and it's like, oh, just stop it, just get off social media, get yourself help, but stop
Yeah,
posting it, because everyone can see this. And it's like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
clearly you're not in a good place. So yeah.
Yeah.
Is there
Oh.
anything that you miss from your old life? Like the alcohol
I
life, obviously, you know, not
Yeah, I mean, I had a good time. You know, like
yeah,
I think everybody sort of, a lot of people say, you know, we definitely had a good time on the booze and the drugs. You know, like at certain stages of my life, but yeah, I wouldn't swap this life that I've got now for any of it. I just
Yeah.
yeah, I feel just so much calmer and clearer, and my relationship with my girls is incredible, and I wouldn't, why would I go back to that? It's just not worth it. So
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
good times, but they're in the past. It's
They're in the past,
well
and
for that
as
shit
William
now.
Porter says, sometimes we do have faded effect bias on that as well. I mean,
Yes.
I know I did have some amazing times, but I don't remember the bad times and the kind of hangovers and how bad it was. You know what I mean? I'm just like rose tinted it all, but there was
Yeah,
good times.
yeah.
Of course, there was. Yeah. Did sobriety give you anything that you didn't expect?
Um, just peace within myself, I think.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, which
yeah,
I didn't expect. And just I didn't like myself very much at all. I wouldn't look at myself in the mirror. I hated what I saw. I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. That I just remember the first time looking in the mirror and actually liking and being proud of what I saw.
hmm
That was pretty special, because I didn't think that I would ever feel like that about myself.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But we do, and it's amazing, isn't it? It's like, my God, like I absolutely could not stand myself, but I was locked in here, and it was like, to be able to go, yeah, you know what, I'm all right with this, and I
Yeah.
enjoy being on my own. Sometimes I couldn't stand being
Yeah.
on my own. I had to just get
Yeah.
completely out of it because I was locked in there with this head, and it was like, but yeah, yeah, it's such an amazing place to be in sobriety. I just love it.
Yeah.
Um,
I think being proud of yourself is a
yeah,
huge thing, to have that self-trust and all that kind of stuff that you didn't have, and actually, like, holy shit, like I'm nailing the I'm not nailing this life at all. I mean, there's lots of things that I could improve, and there's lots of things about myself that I could still improve, but I'm aware of it, and
mhm.
I'm trying my hardest, and I don't think I was 5 years ago, 4 years ago even. So
But you're nailing
yeah.
sobriety, so well done on that, Abby. You're absolutely nailing
Yeah,
that.
thank you.
Yeah, yeah. One piece of advice for someone on day one.
Um, I think just the cliche, just take it one day at a time,
Yeah,
just get through, reach out for help. It's more than one piece of advice. It's reaching out for
I'm not going
help,
to cut you off.
finding
No,
that
no, too much, Abby. Too much. No, it's fine.
it's
It's fine.
finding that support network, whatever that looks like, just
Yeah,
making sure you've got support, making sure that you can reach out for help if you need it.
yeah,
And yeah, not beating yourself up if you slip up, but just don't give up, because it's so worth it. It's
yeah.
so worth it. Yeah.
Absolutely. We're not like, if this was shit, we wouldn't be shouting about it and doing podcasts on it and having Instagram
No,
accounts.
I
It
know.
would be
I mean,
like,
yeah, I mean, if there's so many people saying that it's amazing, like, surely, and
yeah,
I've often said, like, if you come and try it, and if you find that we're lying, then just go back to drinking.
go
But,
back to drinking,
but
do
please
whatever.
don't.
Yeah, but a lot of people, I think they're just like, I'm still not trusting those sober people. I don't know if it's that good.
Yeah, I
You
know.
know, it's a
I
big
know.
conspiracy. We're all
It is.
miserable.
It
Like, we're
is.
gonna get off this podcast, Abby, and I'll be like, oh my God, I can't believe we have to do that again. One habit that keeps you steady.
um, with my sobriety.
Yeah, so like meditation or hiking or something like that you kind of rely on to keep you kind of steady.
Um, just fitness for me
Yeah.
is a big thing. Yeah, so making sure that I get to that's my mental health.
hmm
That keeps my mental health going. But also just not being too hard on myself, and just not trying to, like, I spend a lot of time in the sun and my hammock reading my
No,
book,
nice,
and
nice.
and having naps. Like, I'm cool, and I'm cool
Mm.
with that. I'm not trying to prove, I'm not trying to yeah, not being busy all the time, because I think when you're
Yeah.
busy all the time, or pretending to be busy all the time, it's sort of it's not sustainable. So just taking that time out, lying on your hammock, reading your book, having a nap, can't beat it. So
Nice, nice. I need to get a hammock. I need to get really good weather. That's what we need to have over here before we can have a hammock. But yeah. So a podcast, film, or a book about recovery or hope.
podcast, book. Oh,
What was the book you
oh,
mentioned at the beginning? I think you mentioned it on when I was on your podcast as well.
yeah, Mrs. D is going without.
It's going without.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Cool,
it's a
cool.
little unknown one, but it's really good.
Yeah,
She writes really well. Then she did that one, and then she did Mrs. D is Going Within, where she looked at after she got sober about and how when you are sober, like dealing with all those emotions and
yeah,
all that kind of stuff that's going on, and focusing on finding different hobbies so that you can focus on bettering yourself. She's been on my
yeah,
podcast too, so she's her name's Lotta Dan. But
yeah.
yeah,
I remember
she's
that now.
really cool. Yeah,
Yeah, I'll
yeah,
check that out. I will remember. In fact, do you know what? Like, talk amongst yourselves. I'm just going to look that Stephen Graham one up now because it's an amazing, and I think they did a TV series as well where it was the same thing each episode. Because did you watch Adolescence? You know Stephen Graham
yeah,
that I'm talking about? Yeah. So
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Adolescence was
yeah. He's
all filmed
amazing.
one shot as well. And
Yeah,
I think they did a series on it, which I haven't watched yet. It's called Boiling Point. I'll put it in the show notes, but it's
boiling
this
point.
great,
Okay.
it's a great depiction of his. I mean, he's done loads. Like, I don't think he's ever had an issue with alcohol, but he did another series which was with the guy that did This Is England. If you ever watched any of that, Shane Meadows.
Mm,
So anyway, it's called The Virtues, and it's about
okay.
a guy, 4 episodes or 5 episodes, and he's going back to Ireland to basically visit where he's from because he just can't take it anymore. He's just drinking too much, and so I'll put Boiling Point and The Virtues on there because
Yeah,
they're both
yeah, cool.
brutal. Well, The Virtues definitely is very brutal, but it's a great kind of he comes out of it. I'm not going to put any spoilers, but yeah, but Boiling Point as well, all shot one take. So yeah, they're both
Yeah,
they're both
cool.
brilliant as well. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, amazing. Cool. I'll see if
cool.
I can try and find it. New Zealand Netflix isn't, or whatever it's on, depending on what it's on. But New Zealand, yeah, we struggle to get some of the. We got Adolescence, obviously, just because it took the world by storm. But we
Yeah.
do struggle to get some decent
Do you
UK
get
dramas.
iPlayer?
No,
So I
no.
think I think Boiling Point was on iPlayer. The Virtues is on Channel 4. But
Yeah,
I think you can get everything on Prime now. I don't know, like if you pay for it, I
yeah,
guess.
yeah, maybe, yeah, on
Yeah,
Amazon. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay, I'll have a look.
One word that describes your life now, Abby.
Peaceful.
Nice, nice. I like that.
Yeah.
Cool. Is there anything else you want to add to the listeners?
No, I don't think so. I think anybody that's listening to this, if they're just just keep going. It's
Yeah.
I think
Well,
never
where
give
can
up. I mean,
people?
what's
Sorry, go
that?
on. I was going to say, where
I
can
was
people find you now? Um,
yeah. So my so I've got the Sober Connection podcast, which
mhm,
is
mhm.
available everywhere where you get your podcasts, and the lovely Jimmy Thistle is also on there. I think you were
Yeah.
possibly my last. I think you might have been my last guest
I
actually,
think it
because
was your last
I
one.
haven't done a couple because
You had
I haven't
me,
done
and
a
then
couple just because of
then you
this
did your
issue with my
normal.
social media.
You did your solo thing, so it was me, and then I think you did a solo one, and then. But yeah, I think I'm still the last guest.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Go check it out, people. It's a great episode. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. So yeah, Sober Connection podcast, and then my new Instagram at the moment, as long as it doesn't get taken down again, is at levelup.with Abby. So
hmm
Abby is
hmm
ABI. Yeah. So
Cool,
that's
cool,
me.
cool. Well, I'll put them in the
Yeah.
show notes as well. Abby, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you again and hearing your
Thank
story
you.
from,
Yeah, it's
from your side.
awesome.
Yeah, so thank you. And
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
you're very welcome. Be in touch. Cheers, Abby.
Thank you. See you,
All right.
Jimmy.
All right. Thank you, Abby. Yeah, just as I said at the beginning, powerful episode, and just thank you so much for kind of taking your time to come on and tell your story on the podcast. Like what I was saying at the beginning, like 4 years of pretty much hell from her abusive boyfriend and having to literally escape him. The trauma that clearly comes with that, lasted for such a long time with Abby, and she did eventually get counseling and things like that. But it's, how do you ever kind of reconcile from that? It is a really hard thing to go through. And I'm just glad that Abby, people like Abby, are kind of coming out and talking about this to try and help people that are A, going through alcohol problems, but B, that someone might be listening to this that's in an abusive relationship and they're not sure how to get out of it, there is support out there, even if it is just your friends. I'm sure they are ready to kind of, do whatever they can to get you out. Just like Abby's friends, literally helped her escape and get across London. So I think my main take from this episode is like, once we realized, myself included, saying that it's once we tried to actually make a go of quitting, we found it really hard, or couldn't do it, and that's the thing. Like, I had never really tried to quit until I thought I need to do something about it, and then that was when I realized that, oh shit, I've got a problem. And that's the scary part. I think there's a lot of people out there, they're going through life and thinking, oh yeah, you know what, I don't have a problem with alcohol, I can quit if I want to, blah blah blah. That's the thing. Like, and I will talk about dry January, or dry July, that's going to be coming up soon, and Stoptober. It's like one of these things that when people try to do that and you fail, then there's an issue there, and it's not about going, oh, you know what, I had to go out and have, a friend was having a party, whatever, so I had to drink. No, you didn't. That's the thing. If you're finding it tough to give up, then there's an issue there. So I think, anyone that's listening to this that isn't even sober curious or whatever, just try and stop. You don't have to wait for dry July. Just give up now. See if you can do a week or a month or 3 months. Because if you're struggling to do 3 months in this day and age and you don't think you've got a drinking problem, then it should be easy. And if it is easy, crack on, go back to drinking. Because, as we said in the episode, we're all lying. This sobriety shit is rubbish. We're all miserable. And, for Abby to, kind of almost thinking William Porter's Alcohol Explained as being an absolute Bible for her is just a brilliant thing, because I took a long time to read that book. And when I did, I was all right. I didn't need it to kind of change my life and go, oh, blah, blah, blah. But it explained so much more. So there's a couple of books on my, I've put all of Abby's stuff in the show notes, but I put 3 books at the bottom of mine, and they're there every week. You can go back and check all the previous episodes. And one of them is Alcohol Explained by William Porter. It's just on there as a mainstay. So you'll have to go and look for the other 2. I'm not going to tell you and give them away. So yeah, that's it for this week. We've got, I think 4 episodes after this for this season. And as I said, season 4 is going to be slightly different. It's probably not going to have as many episodes, just because I don't know if everyone can get through all the episodes. I'm just churning them out, and it's like been a bit of a kind of mental year and a bit, because we're on episode 70 now, I think. So it's a lot of episodes, and if people are thinking, oh my god, I can't keep catching up with this, so I'm gonna have a bit of a break after episode 75. Maybe take maybe a couple of weeks, maybe a month off from it, and then we'll come back with some really, really powerful episodes. They're going to be kind of a theme. It's going to be like a kind of concept album, if you can kind of think of it that way. It's going to be the same similar format, but slightly different and in a very powerful way. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm excited for that. I have got some amazing guests lined up. Still got some amazing guests lined up for the rest of this season, like I said. So that's all going well. What else is going on? Not much, guys. It's beautiful weather out there. I'm loving life. Yeah, we've got a little holiday booked in the end of May, going to Madeira, just literally for 4 days, 4 nights. So, not long, but just good to get away. It's over TT week, because we have 2 weeks over here for TT, for the Tourist Trophy motorbike racing. And I'm not a big fan of motorbikes, and it means a lot of my work is kind of hindered with that. So we've just decided to take the practice week and get off the island. The island's got a great buzz going on with it. Don't get me wrong, I do enjoy that. But sometimes it's nice just to get off the island as well, because it can be a bit hectic. So that's coming up next month. I can't believe it's nearly May. So yeah, this year is, I feel like I'm getting the hang of this year now. Like normally it takes you a little couple of months and whatnot, but now we're bang into April, we're into spring, and this is my favorite time of year. I love seeing all the flowers and the buds and the trees and everything coming out. So like, I love life. Life is great, and this is the best time of year. So yeah, thanks for listening, guys. Stay safe, stay supportive, stay sober. Love you all. Peace.